name is Tim Searchinger. I'm with Princeton University and the German Marshall Fund. And in this week's Science, I have an article with 12 distinguished scientists talking about a major accounting flaw in the counting of greenhouse gas emissions under the Kyoto Protocol, Europe's cap and trade system, and the climate bill passed by the U.S. House of Representatives. The problem in those bills is that they exempt from their limits on the greenhouse gas emissions from energy any carbon dioxide emitted by burning bioenergy. That means electricity emissions from burning trees, or biofuels from corn or from any other kind of cellulosic material. What that does, because these bills do not also regulate emissions from land use change, what that does is it means that any form of bioenergy is automatically carbon neutral. So an oil company or an electric utility that needs to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions can switch to using biomass from any form and get full credit for reducing its carbon emissions. Now, some forms of bioenergy do reduce greenhouse gas emissions, because even though what comes out of the smokestack or the tailpipe doesn't change, they come from growing additional plants that absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and in doing that offset the emissions from energy use. But it really depends where the biomass comes from. If the biomass comes simply from clearing a forest and burning it in a boiler, that's really no different than taking carbon from underground and burning it, which is what we do with fossil fuels. So the problem that this creates is that as the oil companies and utilities and factories face tougher and tougher limits on the carbon that they can emit, the price of carbon will go up, the price of emissions will go up, and they will have to do more and more expensive things to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And if it's considered free carbon or a full greenhouse gas reduction to simply chop up the world's forests and burn them in boilers, or to clear the world's forests and to plant bioenergy crops, then they'll have a strong economic incentive to do that. And there are modeling studies, including one by a laboratory of the U.S. Department of Energy, that estimates that would lead to the loss of most of the world's forests. The good news is that there's a solution. The solution is you simply count real emissions. When you burn bioenergy or you use a biofuel, you count the carbon dioxide that comes out of the smokestack or tailpipes. Then what you do is you develop a system to credit the use of those forms of bioenergy that really do result from additional carbon growth, from additional plant growth, or from using crop residues, waste material that would otherwise decompose anyway. Those things bring additional carbon to the table, and that provides a real benefit to replace fossil fuels with. But the real problem is if what we do is we say it's completely carbon-free simply to burn up the world's trees and other carbon stocks, then we're creating a rule that says forests are worth more dead than alive.